tell me, won't you? Okay, so I've got horizon, I've masked the trees, and I've also got a bit of tape so that we get a nice crisp line before you get to the lake, the sea, well, the water. Now I'm going to have take a large brush. It's, when I say large, it's large for this piece of paper. You can get larger. And I'm going to wet the sky. No puddles, but nice and wet. See, it's got a nice sheen on it, apart from that bit there. And I'm going to take my cobalt blue. You don't need too much water on the brush because the paper's got it, but we're going to do a graded wash. So with plenty of cobalt blue on your brush, pull it across, then go back, and work down, and it should get lighter and lighter and lighter until it's really light at the bottom. You can go back in at the top if that doesn't look dark enough. Go back in at the top. Remember to then come down with it a little bit so that it gets lighter as it comes down to the water. If you'd like, you can use perhaps a little bit of ultramarine, a bit darker, or more mix of the same, and just darken that very top, darken the corners. You can pull it in a curve just to give it a bit darker at the top. We're looking for that feeling of just gazing out into blueness. So I've just darkened that off with a little bit of dark ultramarine, just to give it a little bit of depth so that you're looking away into the distance to the horizon. And that's it for that. That was easy, wasn't it? The next bit is to dry this. So I'm going to dry it. I'm going to stop recording or pause. So I've dried the sky. I've removed the masking tape from the horizon line. I'm now going to do the sea, which is a mix of cobalt blue and turquoise. And I'm dry brushing this. You have to keep under that line, and it has to be straight, otherwise you're going to look silly. So leave a few light spots where there's no paint. And then come down to that line that you drew for the shore. So I've got left some white bits of paper. I'm trying to just carefully level up that horizon line. And there's sea.
There's sea.
There's sea.
There's Mia.
Yeah, so that's it. Oh, that just needs to go up there. You can obviously go over the trees because they're masked, and I've just done a little bit of darker lines in some places because you get darker lines in the sea and light bits as well. And that's it for the sea, and we just need that to dry. So I've removed some of the masking fluid from the top whilst we were waiting for the sea to dry. I'm mixing up some dark greens. I'm using Hooker's green with a little bit of Payne's grey added in, so that's quite a dark green. And just doing a line, doing a sweep of that dark on the shoreline there. Then I'm just going to go into plain green. It's only just a bit lighter, but just a couple of sweeps. Then I'm going to have a little bit of the burnt sienna or light red. And I'm going to drop that in underneath those two sweeps of green, and then I'm going to go into cadmium yellow and just drop that in at the bottom there. And with clean water, I'm just going to tap the brush and let the splatter it with clean water and lift it up so that it runs down a bit. And then I'm going to take my rigger with a little bit of the green mixture, cover up the sky, etc., and do a bit of splatter. Just on one corner, just to give it a bit of texture. You see where I splattered the plain water, it's made little blooms and cauliflowers, which is exactly what we wanted. Just gives it a bit of texture on the ground. And now we have to wait for it to dry. So I've done a little bit of splatter in burnt sienna there and a little bit of green there. I've dried it, I've taken off the remainder of the masking fluid, and now we're going to do a tree. And then once you've done one, you know how to do them all. So clean water on your brush and you paint the tree, keeping inside the lines with water. Just enough so that it's got a bit of a sheen. You don't want it too puddly. So just do one at a time, otherwise they'll dry. With a mixture of probably Payne's grey and either burnt umber or sepia. Just Oh, you spend more time mixing than you do. So I'm turning it so that they all come this way. I'm turning it on its end, so it's now portrait. And across the top of the, or the right side of the trunk, I'm just touching it with a very fine tip. If you haven't got a tipped brush, use a rigger just to put just a dot paint really on the length of the trunk. You're not painting the trunk, you're just dotting paint and then letting the water do its thing. And if you've got it this way, it's going to come downwards, so you're going to get a variegated pattern. Well, that's a good word. So clean water, tree number 2. Try and keep in the lines. They used to say that at school. Then with the mix of Payne's grey and the brown, oops, no, you can't do that. Touch the, dot it so that it's not a solid line of paint coming down. It's a bit more on some, and just to vary it really. Tree 3. Water. Dry the water off, get some paint, dry the brush off, get some paint, dot it on. Clean brush. Paint with water. My light is coming from the left, obviously. If you want it the other side, you need to do paper up the other way so that it's that way, because you want it to, the paint to run the opposite way to mine. And just putting dots of pure Payne's grey in, so just to vary the colour of the bark. You can't do it if it's dry, that one's still wet. That one's still wet down the bottom, so just putting darker bits in places, not all the way. And using the lighter color, I'm just going to make my trunks a little more joined up. So just making that line less jaggedy, if that's such a word. And also there'd be quite a dark shadow line on that side of the tree. So it doesn't, it's doing two jobs really. It's just tidying up the tree trunk, that bit there where it is little notches and bits where it's skipped, and I really want it to be solid. I've made that too much of a line and not blended, so I'm just using clean water and agitating it a bit, and it'll come out. And that'll be one spot where I'm going to make sure I've got leaves. So when we're done, that's what you ended up with. I'm quite happy. I like this. I've got the tree trunk is varied. Not so keen on this first one. This first one here, or last one, depending on which way you're looking at it, will be one that has a lot of leaves over the top. I've also given it a dab and generally mucked about with it. So that's got a bit of water there, that one is, but the rest are fairly dry, I think. So we've allowed everything to dry, and we're going to start doing the leaves. I'm using a flat brush. It's a goat hair brush, and I'm using it because it bends and separates a bit at the end, but I may change my mind. And it's a dry brushing method, and we're starting at this end, which, because my light is coming from the left, is going to be the lightest end. So I've used hooker's green and a little bit of yellow mixed in. And I also need my rigger at the ready, because we're going to fiddle around with it. So starting at the top here, I want to cover that bit up because I made a blob, and that's all I need to do. So I'm just dabbing it. So I've dabbed it and twisting it and doing it different ways. And then with the rigger, which has got a bit of water on it, I'm just going to pull out some of those edges. It's just plain water on the rigger, no paint. Then back into the colour, and then I'm just going to have plain hooker's green over that bit, because that's the shady side of the tree. That's my tree that's in front, so I can put leaves over this trunk there, the next one. And then with the rigger, again, just pull the paint out so that it fluffs it out a bit. Next one, just plain hooker's green I don't want to make it all leaf, so I'm just going to do a bit on this one. This tree here, again, is in front of that tree there, so I can go across that trunk, the other trunk, and with the rigger, just pulling it out, moving that paint, plain water, just moving the paint. So you've got ideas of pines and wispiness. And then this last tree, plain hooker's green, I'm going to put some right at the top there and some there, and just pull it across. So right at the top, and then across towards the other tree. This will make it look as if we've got a little peephole. So I just a bit of plain water and just pulling those out. And that's that side done. I'm just going to put a little bit more hooker's green over that tree trunk because I don't want to see that through necessarily. So that's made that dark there, because in some places I can see the tree trunks through. I'm just putting strong green. Over the tree trunks. And we're going to get a bit darker with these next two trees. So I've got just hooker's green and a touch of Payne's grey for the next one, which is in front of this one. So I'm going to do some at the top there. And some in front there and down there. You see, it's quite a bit darker, but that's fine. And with the rigger, pulling it out, just breaking up the lines. Don't want to make it look like a feather duster though. And then with the last one, it's Payne's grey with a little bit of green as opposed to the other way around, because this is in fairly deep shade. And I'm not going to do too much to it. I'm going to do some there where I said that I wanted to, because I made a mistake. So I just done some at the top and just pulling it out. A bit more at the top there. And I am on this one, I'm just going to do a little bit there. Remember, if your tree goes behind, your leaves have to go behind. So I need a little bit more dark across that tree trunk. So I'm just dotting in some colour there and across that bit there. So it can't be, the tree trunk can't be seen. And we'll leave that to dry. Okay, so I'm going to use the Payne's Grey and burnt umber mix that I used for, oh, I don't know, something. And we're going to do little lines to show. So coming down, jaggedy lines. Remember not to put your jaggedy bits or your branches opposite each other. A shaky hand is best for this. And I'm going to do some that come through the branches, through the leaves, and some that just come off the side of the trees. There's always, with a pine tree, you get little bits of where they've died. The branches have died. That comes off of there. It's just where you see that you could put a bit of something of nothing really. And don't forget which tree goes over which tree, because then that gives it more authenticity with these, with the branches. Oh, where else can we have one? A bit there, a bit there, a bit coming down there. Some of them are just little tiny bits. And some are bigger. So I have some branches coming out there. That goes over that, that goes over that one there, right. And then on the floor, just little squiggles. There's always bits of twig. Little squiggles. And then we have to hide the tree trunk bottom. So I'm just going to do the same color, just going to do a bit of grass around the tree trunks just to break up that line. A few weeds. Just hiding that away. And I think I'm going to put a bird or two in the middle there, because that's where I want you to look, people to look. Three little birds. Bob Marley song, I think. And I'm going to do a bit of longer grass here that pokes up into the sea, or in your vision of the sea, and a bit over this side. And I think that's probably it for me. Yeah.